will travel look as the pandemic continues, but some restrictions are eased, and we need to think about the risks as well? I'm pleased to say I'm joined by travel journalists Jill Starley-Granger in Morzine in France and Jeanette Ceja in Nashville, Tennessee. Jeanette, let's come to you first. How much are Americans travelling now, and do they feel confident to go outside their own borders?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me today. I recently this week took a domestic trip from Los Angeles to Nashville, and I noticed an increase in travelers at the airport, and the flights were full as well. And you can hear a lot of optimism for Americans who are planning summer travels and also looking to travel abroad for the fall and the winter.
So optimism from you. Jill, let's check in with you. We're talking about British and European travel. A sense of it loosening up or being about to loosen up?
Yeah, so this afternoon we're expecting an announcement from the government about what England's travel plan will be. We've been told about the roadmap and about how travellers from England should be able to travel to a few key destinations without having to isolate when they come back, assuming they test negative. But we don't really know which countries are going to be on that list. And in the beginning, we're not expecting it to be very many.
And just following up on that, Jill, I suppose one of the problems is it's the cost, because it's not just a cost of a holiday, but if you have to quarantine or isolate, you lose pay, you have to pay for quarantine, there's all sorts of extras there.
Yeah, and the PCR tests are very expensive. So most people I know who have done this, because I'm in France, I do know people who occasionally have had to go to the UK for work and come back over. And the PCR test alone can cost between £300 and £500. So the goal of the Green List is that you wouldn't need as many PCR tests. However, we're hoping that the government will also make an announcement about bringing costs down. And some travel agents have effectively said they're going to subsidize the PCR tests, which could further bring it down. But yeah, it's very expensive. And if you end up in a country on the red list, and if a country's on the amber list when you go out, it could easily move into the red list. That's a £1,750 per person hotel bill at a sort of airport hotel that you'd have to stay in for 10 days. So it's not a cheap endeavor in the early days.
So Jeanette, if you're travelling in the States, you can travel thousands of miles without leaving the country. So I guess in some ways it's simpler. Tell me about vaxications.
Yes, so vaccication is a new term that came out this year. A lot of Americans, it's estimated 2 out of every 5 Americans has at least got the first dose of the COVID vaccine. And that's giving a lot of Americans optimism to go on a vacation. So vaccication is a tourist who is fully vaccinated going on vacation. And a lot of the airports here in the U.S., for example, LAX, JFK in New York, and Hawaii, San Francisco have COVID testing on site now. So travelers can go and get rapid testing, and I believe it ranges anywhere from $50 to $100, and you can get results within a few hours.
And Jeanette, just staying with you for the moment, what do you think about the appetite for globe-trotting among Americans?
Yes, well, we, for a while, almost a year, as Americans, we have not been able to travel to many countries. Slowly, we're starting to see some countries open up to Americans. For example, Serbia, Greece has been open, Egypt. Mexico has always been open for Americans, and Americans have been traveling to and from America to Mexico during this time.
And Jill, let's think about it from the other point of view as well, which is tourist industries needing people to come. I mean, the French might want Brits to come or vice versa, because there are a lot of industries that have shut down for most of a year.
Yeah, tourism is a huge global economy, so it's having an impact across the world. And there are countries, destinations that are heavily reliant on tourism, such as Greece, Cyprus, lots of countries, Turkey, where tourism makes up a big part of their economy. So it's really important that we get things moving. But of course, we have to do it safely, because We don't want to repeat what happened last summer, which is where people went abroad thinking it was going to be safe, and then suddenly were told that they had 24 or 48 hours to get back before they'd have to quarantine in the UK. So this caused a lot of panic. So I think at this stage, although we're expecting an announcement this afternoon about some of those green list destinations, it's very much worth bearing in mind that they will be revisiting this list every 2 to 3 weeks. So I would be very hesitant to book until close to the time, just so you'd have a bit more surety about where you could go and not have to quarantine.
And just a quick question for both of you. Jill, I'm going to go to you first. Looking at each other virtually, Jill, would you be happy if you were allowed to fly to the US right now?
Not yet, because I'm not quite vaccinated, but give me a few weeks and yes, definitely.
And Jeanette, would you be happy to go to Europe if you were allowed?
Absolutely. I've been waiting for over a year, and once I'm, able to go, I will be there, and of course, fully vaccinated. Yes.
Well, I hope you both get to resume your travels without restrictions, and that goes for all of us. Both, thank you very much, Jeanette and Jill, for joining us here on BBC World News.
Thank you.